welcome to the first episode of Daastan-E-Raahi. Daastan-E-Raahi is going to be a travel talk where you will know about amazing places through wonderful travelers, like through their stories. And for the first talk, we have Arunima Sikder. Arunima is a young researcher in the field of ecology. She treks in the Himalayan mountains to explore forest for her PhD thesis. And she says that she gathers more stories than data for her work. So I think without any further delay, let's get Arunima on board. I think she must be joining in a minute.
Am I connected?
Yes, you're connected. Absolutely. Hi,
So the
Arunima.
same question, am I audible? Is my screen visible? What
Yes,
we've been saying for a year.
yes, you're audible and you're visible completely.
Nice to see you, Shubha.
Yeah, same here. How are you? How are you doing?
All fine, all fine. Locked here, and it feels good to have a chat about the time that I used to travel, being locked in
Yeah.
my house.
I'm looking forward to all the stories from you. So, I just gave a very, very brief introduction about you, but why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so hello everyone, I'm Arunima. I'm basically a researcher. I started my PhD recently in 2020. Before that, from 2018, I have been in Sikkim, and because I was in a project that deals with biodiversity in Northeast India. So because of that work, I had to travel to a lot of places in Northeast, and I have been doing that since 2018. 2020, I started my PhD journey, and it's going to go on for a few years now.
Yeah, so how many years are you looking forward to, like, for the
At least
PhD?
five. At least
Oh my
five.
God, that's
That's the
going to be
minimum.
long.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I would say I was very fortunate to meet you when I was in Sikkim recently, and I got a chance to spend a good amount of time with you, knowing about your stories
We
and
had
obviously about
fun.
your PhD also. Yeah. So, I want to know how has your profession, like, because it's not every day that you meet a field researcher. So, how has your profession taken you to places, and would you like to tell us more about your profession?
So basically, field-based research requires us to go to the places which are our study sites, and it can be like anywhere, but it also requires us to integrate ourselves in that study site. It's not like you visit and you can get your data. You have to go stay with the locals, understand their way of life, in order to write about it, about a place, to make a thesis out of a place. You really have to understand their history, their present. So that's why, because my study site is in Sikkim, entire state of Sikkim and parts of Darjeeling in West Bengal. So I have been staying in Sikkim since 2018, and then I started traveling to other places. I stayed in Assam for a while. I visit Darjeeling also frequently. I've gone to Imphal, and I was supposed to go to Tripura last year, but the lockdown happened and I couldn't. So yeah, I'm also
Okay.
looking forward to covering all the northeastern states basically. Let's see when I can travel again.
So you're mostly based in Sikkim, if I get that point.
Shubha,
Can you
there was
hear me?
some backlog. Can you please repeat? Yeah, it got stuck for
Can
a
you hear
moment.
me
Can you
now?
repeat? Yeah.
Okay, okay. I'm just saying that you have like good amount of time you spend in Sikkim, I believe.
Yeah, about 2 years. I stayed there constantly for a year and a half, and then I've been
Okay.
visiting every month for 3 years now. Like I met you in
I
March, right, in Sikkim.
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah,
yes, of
even in
course.
March I was there.
So you were like already in like you planned up for Sikkim only, or you just landed in Sikkim? How that went on, I mean.
Oh, that's a story in itself. Like when I joined the project, I was said that my study site is going to be in Sikkim, but the institute that I work with is based in Bangalore. So,
Okay.
so after getting appointed, I got a call one day from my guide, and he says, "So we have a small office in Gangtok. So there's my
Okay.
guide said, just meet me up in Gangtok on Monday." So I was like, okay, I got my tickets. It was a Friday. Okay, within 2 days I had to reach. I got my
Okay.
tickets. It was my first, no, it was my second solo travel. I got my tickets. I packed for about a week. And I reached the office on a Monday, and my guide says, "Okay, then you will be staying here." And I said,
Wow.
"Where?" I was putting up at a hotel, and they were like, "Okay, you have to stay here." Then I have a friend, I have a colleague in Sikkim, and she helped me, and we went room hunting like crazy for a week, and I ended up staying for 3 months with 1 week's packing. So
Whoa.
after 3 months, I applied for a leave,
That
and I
must
was
be a
back.
lot for a girl, I guess. Like 1 week of packing and staying for
One
three
week of
months.
packing, and like Sikkim is so cold. I went in August, and it's constantly raining, and the rain makes it colder. Okay, and I just
Yeah.
had 1 or 2 pieces of warm clothing or something, and my
Oh
parents
my
had no idea that I was going to like settle down over there when I left home that day.
Yeah, but then that
Yeah,
sounds that sounds exciting. Like you were planning for kind of Bangalore, and then you landed up in
yeah,
Sikkim. It's like a
yeah.
blessing, I would say. Like for a lot of travelers, it would be a
Yeah,
blessing.
for a lot of them. But yeah, it's quite difficult to find a place in Gangtok, because it's the urban center of the state. All schools, colleges, hospitals, everything is there. So it's
Yeah.
difficult to find a place. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, we had a conversation when I was in Gangtok, and I remember you told me that when you go to a new place, you normally don't read much about it. Like, you want to have a very unbiased and a very raw impression about that place, like, no
Yeah.
stereotype type. So, what was your first impressions like when you went to Sikkim?
It was okay. So I had been to Sikkim before because I used to study botany and we were required to do field trips. So during my
Okay.
bachelor's, master's, both the time I went to Sikkim, but it was in
Okay.
a group. Okay, we went like tourists. We went to all those touristy places in Ravangla, Temiti Garden, and all those places in West Sikkim. But this time I was going to go and stay there, make it my home, make it my second home. So I did not
Yeah.
take that approach. In the beginning, it was a little weird, like because I did not understand the language and I didn't understand a single word of what people were saying around me. But
Yeah.
yeah, even if I felt strange, your surroundings are so damn beautiful, it makes up for it, surely.
Right.
So it took
Right.
me a month, 2 month to get get a grasp on the language, and then now I can understand Nepali completely. I can speak a little
Okay.
bit, but I can
Yeah.
understand Nepali completely. And one of the things that I did was um, I started exploring the place by myself. First of all, I found out that Sikkim was very safe for exploring alone.
Okay.
So I started exploring by myself on the weekends. I would just walk here and there, get into any shop. That's how I found out my favorite spots. I went out a lot.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
staying alone. I didn't like being cooped up in the room, and I started to notice how locals go about their day. They used to wake up early. They never took taxi for small distances. They always walk. So there are shortcuts. You
Yeah.
must remember I took you to MG Mart through a shortcut,
Like
no?
a lot
Too
of
many
bridges
stairs.
and all. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And
So
I
I
think
used to
those were
take
pretty bridges because they had all those flowers around them. And it was like a very, very pretty sort of bridges. Like you
that's
don't,
natural, but you seem to
yeah,
get out of breath. So I used to climb
yeah.
250 stairs to my office every day, back and forth.
Okay.
I did not
Yeah.
take a taxi. And all my
Yeah.
colleagues also encouraged me that if you're planning to stay for a long time, you should develop your stamina if you want to walk on
Yeah.
the hilly
So I'm
roads and
sure
all.
like you go to forest also, so you get to walk a lot. Like when you
Oh,
go to forest to research.
that's so difficult for me. And I fall so many times. I can't explain because, so when a trekker goes for an adventure in the forest, so you will follow that trail that is there, especially for trekkers and tourists. So
Right.
and on that trail, you'll not find any trees. I work with trees. I need the data from trees, right? So
Right.
what I do is, we don't take the trail, we cut through the forest. Like we look at the compass and wherever the direction is taking us, we go. That's how we
Yeah.
ended up getting lost in the forest once or twice. Once it happened recently in February. We could not find the
Okay.
exit from the forest
That
for
that that is a story like very exciting. Seems like you get lost every time and maybe you have a new story every time.
yeah. You can only get a story if you successfully get out of the forest.
That
So
is true. And you can tell only if you're out from that. True, very
it's
true.
so difficult because it's so steep, and sometimes you're walking and then there is no road. Suddenly there's a stream, or there's
Yeah.
a it's downward and it's filled with plants. You can't keep your feet anywhere. I fall down so many times. Like I haven't even counted. I got used to it. Now I roll myself down from mountains.
Now it would be fun, I guess. Like you're used to it, so it would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me
So
quite a while, but I'm used to it. Yeah.
yeah. So how is working culture in Sikkim? Because most of the people just see the tourist side of Sikkim, but considering you have worked in Sikkim, you stay for long durations in
Uh,
Sikkim, how is work culture over there?
it's a small state, and hence it's more like a family. Like if you go to my office, I think there are hardly 20 people working there. So they share their lunch, they chat. It's a very homely environment, not like very professional and strict. And yeah, that was also very helpful. I made friends in my office, and it was just more like a daily visiting place in a group, not like a very office sort of professional sort of place. That's my
Yeah.
experience personally. Even when I visited, like I have to work with the forest department quite a lot for my
Hmm.
work. So forest department, all the IFS and DFO officials are there. Even they
Right,
seemed
right.
very down to earth and very friendly. Like compared to what I see in West Bengal, I'm from West Bengal, and when I deal with the forest officials here, it's quite a hassle. But it's not
Yeah.
like that in Sikkim. They're like always open to helping people.
I guess in general, people of hills are very helpful and kind and
Very.
happy people, I would say. Yeah.
Because the
So,
places I go to, I wouldn't
yeah,
have ever found a staying place or food or anything if it was not for the locals, you know.
yeah. Yeah, so like, do you have any encounters or any stories where you can tell us about like how helpful locals were to you? Because I know
So
there are ample of stories of people of hills of
I
helping out
talked too
anyone
much
they
in
can.
them.
Yeah.
So one of the things is when they say, see that I'm a girl, and I'm a young girl alone in the mountains. I don't even speak the language, and they are like concerned, like, oh, you're a single child. What are you doing here? Don't you feel scared? They're scared on my behalf. Of course, I'm scared. But what happens is we always take one person from the locality to go to us. To the forest, someone who knows the way, so that we don't get lost, etc. So
Yeah.
those people have always been very helpful, and they pay special attention to me because they know that I'm not from the hills. I'm not used to this terrain, and I can fall, and I'm scared. They can understand I'm scared. So they're
Okay.
very helpful.
Yeah. But then if you go to remote parts, like you
Yeah.
said, so are people like, is there any input from them that you're like a solo girl traveling in so hilly mountains, remote parts? So what is the reaction of local
They
people over
asked me to go back to home.
there?
They tell
Really?
me your parents must be worried for you. Why don't you go back? One time it happened not from a person in Sikkim, but I was working in West Bengal near the Bhutan border. There's a place called Duars.
Okay.
So there was this one forest person, like forest staff, and he kept telling me, why? I don't understand why you're here sitting in the forest. You're so tiny. Your parents must be scared. He was convincing me to leave my job. And I was like, no, no, you
Oh
don't
my God.
worry. I'll take care. And he was so scared of elephants. I saw an elephant when I was working in Duars. People are very
Okay.
scared of elephants over there because elephant, if they come in a herd, they're quite unpredictable, and that
Yeah.
area is totally an elephant corridor. So I was
Okay.
working inside the forest, and suddenly, and I could see, like, it was quite foggy, but I could spot the elephant from within the fog. And the forest officials like, we should run, we should run, we should get away from here, before it. But I wanted
Yeah.
to see. But anyway, yeah, there are some accidents that they also report due to elephants, so we have to be very cautious because especially in Assam, Darjeeling, foothills of West Bengal, it's like
Yeah.
leopard and elephants are there in plenty.
Yeah. I think working in forest might have a lot of chances of encountering such wild animals.
One time, like, it was not a direct encounter for me
Yeah.
because animals are also shy, they don't like people barging into their homes and all.
Right.
Especially if you are making a lot of noise while you are in the forest, then that's not
Yeah.
good. Like, you'll never encounter any animal like that. You should be very quiet. And so, yeah, while working, we do have some noise and some hustle like that. But one time in 2019, I was in Darjeeling. We
Yeah.
went to a wildlife sanctuary called Central. It's also a touristy place. So there is a biking route within the wildlife sanctuary, and it's very famous. So we were just there to explore the forest that day, and thankfully, you'll understand why I say thankfully now. But thankfully, our field assistant was not available that day, and hence we did not get inside the forest that we
Okay.
usually do. We were
Yeah.
going through the trail, okay, and suddenly there's this big cat sort of smell. Tigers, leopards, they have a certain smell if they're in your vicinity. So we got
Yeah.
that smell, and like the forest is behind us, and we are on the trail. So we got that smell, and I'm hearing some noise. So like paw. So if a cat walks, it's very silent,
Yeah.
but still you can uh, feel something.
Maybe
So I'm getting,
vibes. Like, yeah.
yeah, I'm getting that noise, I'm getting that smell, and I got very
Yeah.
worried. And my sir, I think he understood, and he was like, "Don't worry, it's nothing. It's just the sound of water from a stream or something." But then, after we got out of the forest, we got to know from the locals that a leopard was spotted just the previous day, and they found a dead carcass of a smaller mammal that it had eaten. And so many people, and even we encountered one foreigner tourist who was on that biking route, and he asked us, "Hey, did you spot a leopard?" And I was like, "No, we wouldn't be alive if we did." But yeah,
True.
that was there. I think there was a
But
leopard somewhere.
was that foreigner trying to find the leopard?
Yeah, he was very
Oh my
excited. On
God.
his bike, he was going around the forest asking everyone if they had seen a leopard. But oh God, that was the
That
closest I've gotten.
yeah, that was a very close encounter, I would say. And if the leopard would have seen you, might be we would not be having this conversation. You never know.
Leopards are shy, but leopards are shy. I'm just counting on
Yeah,
that. Maybe the
yeah.
leopard got shy seeing us or something.
So coming back to Sikkim, how is community like? Like, are they like a very close-knit community or what sort of community? Because, when I have been to Gangtok, like in March itself, so I found that, when you go to just Gangtok, you don't get a feel of what Sikkimese people are like,
Yeah.
because it's more like a hotels and you have all those, like MG Road is lit up with cafes and everything. So that is all touristy. But then you don't get a glimpse of like real Sikkimese culture. Maybe we have to go to some other villages or maybe some remote parts to get that. So what do you feel? What communities like Sikkim, for Sikkim, I would say?
So, like, as I told you, even when we met up in Gangtok, that okay, don't go to these places, these are way too touristy. I mean, you'll get to see the beautiful landscape, of course, but
Yeah.
to actually get the feel of what life is like in the hills, uh, Gangtok, I won't say it's the best place. If you want to have fun and uh, have the fun that you usually have in pubs, etc., in the city, that the same thing you get in Gangtok. If you have to
Yeah.
get the feel, like, I did not go just for a vacation or a visit. I went there for my work, many places, and life is like very different. Even if you just travel 1.5 hours away from Gangtok. I have been to a place called Tummin. It's in
Okay.
East Sikkim only. It's just, I think, 2 hours away from Gangtok. And I stayed
Okay.
there for a week. And weirdly, there are no shops over there. Like, not a single shop anywhere.
Okay.
And so people are just so okay with it. I mean, they don't really require shops on a daily basis. They don't buy ready-made products. I
Right.
like, when I was staying there, I observed their way of life, and they get up really early morning. Every house has a small piece of land in front of it, and they'll just cultivate something, some veggies over there, and they'll just have that for their meals. I
Yeah.
had homemade butter, homemade ghee, whatever they needed in a daily life, they took care of it from nature,
Yep.
from the forests. I did not, it was so weird. I did not see a single shop in 1 week. And I was
Yeah.
wondering matlab, it might be very inconvenient for them, but it was not. It was not. They had everything that they needed. So, like, going to such places made me realize that, okay, this kind of life is also possible, and it's
Right.
quite peaceful, and you always don't need a surplus of things to be happy. It was
Right. And I think
very, this experience was great.
Sikkim is also, I think, the first organic state of India.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they
yeah.
have
Yes.
all the organic things happening.
Yeah.
That is interesting. And when we talk about hills, I always feel that, the drivers who go through these roads and take you to those hills are some of the amazing people you get to meet, and they have a lot of stories. So do you have any like encounters or any stories with these drivers who drive in those
Plenty,
hills?
plenty. Because most of the time I'm on the road and I have to travel to remote places. That means, 6 hours, 5 hours in a car at one
Yeah.
go. So, like, the drivers make all the difference because they are so good at conversations. They can strike
Yeah.
up a conversation about anything. I met one driver in Darjeeling and he had been driving tourist vehicles for a long time and he could speak fluent Bengali. He could speak I think Tamil also, some Tamil, like
Okay.
whomever he met, he used to learn a bit of their language. And they have so many stories that makes the journey all the better. Like it has been a lot of times that I was the only person traveling in a car uh, for long times at odd hours. And I
Yeah.
never once felt unsafe. Even like the journey was more enjoyable because of the drivers over there.
Right.
I remember one time my flight was late, I think in January. My flight was 3 hours late and I missed my car. I had to go to a place called Ribdi in West Sikkim. It's very far. It's 11,000 feet. It was very far. And I missed my car that was supposed to take me till a point. So I just got on
Okay.
a random Ola. I booked an Ola from the airport and that I told my problem to that person and he started looking for cabs for me. He said, okay, I have a sister with me. She needs to reach this place. He started asking
Yeah.
all his driver friends and he made sure that I reached, like, I got a vehicle and he asked me to call him if I'd reach, safely or not. People as
Yeah.
such, like, I have not seen this kind of helpful behavior in many of the places and many of the states I've visited. But yeah, people of the hills, this has become normal now. That's why I know, like, even if I'm traveling alone to a place I have not been before, there are
Yeah.
the people, like, I can ask anyone and that person will help me.
Right, right. Obviously, I think the hill people in general are very, very helpful, very
Yeah,
kind, very
very
helpful,
helpful, very
and
open. Yeah.
yeah, and they would go out of their way to just to help you out in whatever
Yeah.
way they can.
So,
Yeah,
and you don't even have to be someone who's acquainted with that person. Like, I
yeah,
have had experiences where I don't know anyone. I just know someone from that village. I go to that place and I say, okay, I'm this person's friend, and they'll
yeah.
treat me like their own.
True. Like
So
just a one
nice.
single connection can
Yeah,
like
even
do.
not a direct connection. There were so many times, like
Yeah.
someone's friend, very far, indirect connections. I had just gone and said that, and they helped me.
Yeah, that is so nice of like, hear such stories. And we were talking about the solo travel thing, like you told about your solo travel experiences. So as a traveler myself, I know that world is not that scary place. Solo women traveler has always been there. Like, whatever the state may be, whatever the place may be, it's always been there. So how do you see Sikkim in that context, especially the solo women traveler context?
I think Sikkim is the best place to be there as a solo traveler, especially if you're a woman. I think
Yeah.
most parts of Northeast are safe in that regard. But I
Okay.
think because I can speak for Sikkim, because I travel there every month now.
Yeah.
So the hills, it is all closed down very early because day starts early for them, and you won't get as many vehicles after 8:30 in Gangtok. But there was a time when I went to a movie alone, and it was a
Okay.
night show, and it was 9:30, 10 o'clock. It was
Yeah.
raining, and there was just literally one cab available. I took that one, and I have never felt unsafe over there. I knew, like, I'm not going to get into any sort of trouble from the people over there, at least. It can be the roads, it can be the weather, it can be a landslide, but
Yeah.
it won't be anything from the people. So, you remember, right? We walked alone. There was a curfew going on just before the lockdown
Right.
in March. Me, you,
Yes.
and Bhagya, we could not get a cab to return to our location. So we just
Yes.
walked, and it was pitch dark. There was no light. We switched on our mobile torch lights, and we walked, and we were able to reach just by guessing the road.
That is true. That is true. And you know what? The next day, like the day we went together in the night, the next day, me and Bhagyashree decided to walk again. Like it was what, around 6:30 or 7 o'clock, we were at Rachna bookstore, and we thought,
Yeah.
like, you know what, let's walk back to Zostel again. And it was pitch dark lanes, but the confidence you gave us a day before, that actually made it happen, you know. Else, in if because it was just 2 days in that city, and we didn't know anyone
Yeah.
out there, you know. It was just
Yeah.
two of us, and we went through some dark lanes, and even there were places we were like, should we go, should we not? But then nothing bothered us, you know,
Yeah.
except some ferocious dogs on the street. Except that, none of the people bothered us, and we could treat safely. So I think definitely I have experienced that. But considering you go regularly on these solo trips to Sikkim, so you would be the right person to, you know, talk about that. And also I would say that, you know, your ideas and your travel stories would give confidence to people, like it gave to us. The same way
Yeah.
it would give confidence to people who are planning their first travel to, or maybe solo women travel and
Yeah,
all.
they can of course go to Sikkim. They won't face any issues, I'm sure.
Yeah, and even I think we met couple of people at Zostel also.
Who were traveling solo, right?
Yeah, a lot of were girls. You know, it was not that
Yeah.
only we
So
found
many.
guys. So many girls, yeah, and they were all
Yeah.
solo women travelers, which was amazing to see. Like, you know, so
And
many travelers.
mostly from Sikkim, some of them were also going to other parts of the Northeast. I think,
Yeah,
yeah, generally in Northeast, you can travel alone. I wouldn't dare to do anything, you know, walking through a lane that I don't know in Calcutta, in my hometown, even I won't dare to do that because the environment is like that, you know.
right.
It's not a good thing, but yeah, we have to adjust. So
Yeah,
Sikkim has given me a lot of courage about traveling alone. I remember, so I was telling you about that time when my flight was late and I could not reach in time, right? And we had to
yeah,
go to a very remote place, as I was telling you. That village is called Ribdi, and no
yeah,
cars go to that road. Okay, we had hired a car, and because I was late, we missed that car, and then
yeah.
the car broke down, and it
Oh my
was around 7:38 and we were not even halfway. So that
God.
driver, what he did was he called up someone's restaurant and asked that person to keep it open until we reach so that we can have some food, otherwise all the shops also closed down. So we
Yeah,
reached that place called Soreng in 9:30 at night. Usually
yeah,
shops are not open at that time. We had
yeah.
our food, and ultimately we reached our location at 11 in the night. It was freezing. It was 0 degrees. It was in January.
Oh
But
my God.
we reached anyhow. Like, it was not a problem. Things got
Yeah.
sorted out.
Yeah, so I think that gives a lot of insight about Sikkim. But you know, one thing which I want to really talk about, and which normally you don't get to know, is about the Korean influence in Sikkim. Like you remember that when we were in Sikkim, we bought some South Korean noodles and some beauty
You
products from
noticed it,
Korea.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, I know that you get Korean products in other parts of India also. It's not that you don't get, but it's not as common as that you walk into a grocery store, a small grocery store, and ask for a South Korean noodles and you get it. No, it is not that way. But in Sikkim, you get that. So, like, considering you have a lot of friends and colleagues who are from Sikkim, so do you have any insight? Why is that Korean influence in Sikkim?
So even I was very amazed by the influence, because after you reach a certain elevation, like you see multiple shops in Gangtok and all, but you visited Canggu, right? So if you go to
Yeah,
Canggu, there in the shops, all the products are either from Korea or China. And one of
yeah,
the reasons is the vicinity, you know, the cost that they have to bear to get anything from Siliguri, which is the nearest city. And, you
yeah,
know, the China and Korea are just nearby. It's the
right.
transport is easy. And also, like, these products are very, very in demand in those places because people are under the Korean influence for a long time. In India, we are hearing about BTS and everything very recently, maybe 1 year, 2 year for few of us, maybe some months. But
Yeah,
I talked to a friend of mine, and she said that ever since she was a child, they used to get a channel in their television, which was a Korean cable channel. Like earlier,
oh,
we there was no streaming and all, right? So we just
yeah,
used to watch cable TV. So in cable
yeah,
TV, they got a Korean channel, and that's how they got hooked into K dramas. And my friend, she told me, like, when she was in college, our school, high school, she used to buy those CDs. Earlier, we used to use CDs, no, for streaming.
Right.
She used to save up
Yeah.
and buy CDs to watch K dramas. So they have been into the Korean influence long ago, and that's why there was this demand for Korean products. And people mostly use Korean and Chinese products in those areas. And even like Gangtok is my go-to place if I need something. I'll go to Gangtok and I'll stock up. Like I go there, and while I come back, half my trekking bag is full of ramen. You saw me, right? I bought some that time
Right.
also. I took you
Yes,
guys
yes.
somewhere.
Yes, yes, and of course, you gave us some store names also where we could go and
Yeah,
buy the Korean skincare products and all. So
yeah.
yes, definitely. But I was very curious because when I came back, I Googled about it and I could not find anything about it. So I thought maybe like, if you know any Sikkimese, maybe you'll get an insight about it. So that's why I
Yeah.
wanted to know. So,
Not everything is in Google. That's
yeah,
what
that
I
is
can
true.
say.
That's why one must travel so that they can know more about it. So, you go to so many remote places. If there is any one place you would like to suggest to people that, okay, go to this place in Sikkim, this is not touristy and one should definitely visit, what would that be?
So, one place that I always encourage people to go to, it's not very far from Gangtok. So, if you reach Gangtok and there's the Pakyong airport, right, which is again
Yeah.
functioning. So, from Pakyong airport, it takes you 40 minutes to an hour to reach that place. That it's a small village. It's called Yaktin.
Okay.
And you have to hire a car to reach there, but just like 40 minutes away from the airport. But it's so beautiful. I was there in December 2018. I was there for my work. There's a forest nearby, so there are
Okay.
some homestays over there. I think only 7 8 homestays are there.
Okay.
And the food is amazing, the view is amazing, the environment is very warm and homely, and I got an amazing view of Kanchenjunga. The forest is also nearby, and it's just very quiet. Like you can just spare one day to get a feel of what it is like in Sikkimese villages, after
Yeah.
staying in the Gangtok, say, for a day or two. That is
So,
one place.
yeah.
Another would be Zuluk. So I
Oh,
know.
I was wondering why didn't you say Juluk till yet?
Yeah, because I nagged you guys so much, that you should
Yeah.
have gone to Zuluk, not Nathula Pass. I
Yeah.
think in Zostel I just discouraged everyone to go to Nathula Pass. After a point, people were like, "Why are you discouraging us?" But I just did not want you
True.
guys
You know
to.
what? When I came back, I really Googled about Zulu because I wanted to know why Arunima was so gaga about that place. Like, what is there in that place? But pictures are amazing. Like, I think you would be able to tell more. Like, you have been to that place.
Yeah. So one of the most popular tours that people take is from Canggu to Nathula Pass. But there's another route that goes, and it's called the Silk Route. So that's where between China and India and Tibet, the trading would take place. So that's why it's called the Silk Route. So
Yeah.
after you cross Canggu, you reach Kupup Lake, Nathang Valley, and the last point is Zuluk. So Zuluk is that zigzag road where it takes, I think there are 108 hairpin loops, I
No,
think in
like,
32
uh,
kilometers.
no. It is 32 hairpins in
Oh,
14
32
kilometer
here.
stretch.
14
Yeah,
kilometers.
something like that. Yeah. But that
So,
is also crazy because 14 kilometers is a very
it's
small
crazy.
path for 32
And
hairpins.
even the whole route is beautiful. Like before you reach Zuluk, you'll find a small lake called the Elephant Lake. There's the Kupup Lake. There's a Nathang Valley. I had taken this tour multiple times. This was just for like a visit. It's a 1 day visit from Gangtok. It will take you 1 day only. And I
Yeah.
have been there multiple times. Once it was in November. But if you have to go to Zuluk, you have to go early morning so that the road is completely visible. After
Yeah.
10, all the clouds were below us. We were literally above the clouds. It was
Wow.
such an amazing experience. We were literally above the clouds, and you have to go through a very small village. So as soon as we entered that whole route that has all these hairpins, and it was
Yeah.
just, there was no visibility. It was completely covered in mist. It was cold. It was November. It was cold, and we were freezing. But it was so exciting. Every two
Yeah.
seconds there was a steep turn. And oh,
Yeah.
it's one of the journeys that I'll not forget, because you get that thrill that, are we going to get through this?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Like if you have motion sickness, then I don't know,
No.
God may help you.
I don't have vertigo, thank God. But you
Yeah.
have to trust your driver. You have
Yeah.
to blindly trust your driver anytime that you're traveling in the hills. So Zuluk has been one of the best places, and I'll go there any day, any number of times. Because
Yeah.
every time you go, I was there at 11 a.m. or something, it's a different kind of beauty. If you go early morning, it's a different kind of beauty. So it's
Yeah.
a amazing place, and I'll highly recommend everyone to visit it.
So one was Yakpen and another one is Zuluk, right?
Zuluk, right.
Okay. So we have talked about Sikkim so much. You said that you have been to other northeastern states as well. So what are those states and how was the experience like?
So one of the first places I visited through my work was Manipur. I went to Imphal. I stayed there for a few days. Manipur is very amazing in the sense that it's matriarchal. So most of the northeast states are female dominated, but if you go to Manipur, you can really see it. Like women are dominating every sector over there. So there's a market in Imphal. It's a huge market. It's called the Emma market. Emma literally means mother in their language, and
Okay.
that Emma market is huge, and they sell all sorts of stuff, and only female vendors are there. And it was an amazing experience by the variety of things that they sell, especially the cuisine. I tried silkworms over there. I tried
Okay.
snails. Snails are
Okay.
so yum. After going to Northeast, I keep looking for snails in every state. You'll not find them in Sikkim. If you go to Assam and Manipur, you'll find a lot of snails, different varieties in every cuisine. And there are many tribes in Manipur. The most dominant tribe is called the Meitei tribe. So I tried the Meitei traditional cuisine, which we were served on our first day. It's amazing. It's delicious. I can still remember the taste. And we had snails as a part of that cuisine. They have black rice pudding and very exotic things. It's
Okay.
going to stay with you for a long time. So my experience in Imphal was for a few days, 3-4 days. I visited the Loktak Lake, which is a World Heritage Site. So when you're landing in Manipur from the top, you can see there's a lake, and there are these small floating islands within that
Okay.
lake. So we
Okay.
visited Loktak Lake. We took a boat, and I even stood on these small floating islands. So this much
Oh,
of
wow.
land is there, and they are in the shape of concentric circles. You just Google Loktak Lake, and
Okay.
it's so beautiful when you're just landing in the flight. And I stood on those floating islands. It was a nice experience. These islands
Yeah.
are called Fundi in their local language. It is one of the major attractions in Manipur. It's very
Yeah.
nearby Imphal. You can just go in a day and come back. So Manipur was a very different experience, and I'd like to visit again. I have some friends from Manipur, so I think I'd like to go through their connections and stay like a local, as I always
Yeah.
do.
But like you mentioned about the delicacies over there, being a vegetarian, I am not very sure how would I feel, but
But you
definitely for
had
me,
laughing, right?
yeah, I had laughing. Of course I had. And it was nice. Until
It
and
was
it's
nice, right?
vegetarian, that's fine with me. But I'm
Yeah.
sure people who are non-vegetarians and are willing to try new food and all, I'm
Yeah.
sure they would love that. Yeah. So
Northeast,
snail,
Northeast is a treasure for that. Different
yeah.
cuisines.
So why is that like why people of Manipur have like so many delicacies for snails and all? Is there any nutritious value or anything like
Yeah,
that?
it has a nutritious value. I think I saw that more when I visited to a place called Boroland in Assam. So
Okay.
Boroland is a territorial land, and I had some work there. I stayed there for like 2 months. And Boro language is very different from Assamese. Like I'm Bengali, so I can understand a little bit of Assamese. I can read the script, it's same. But once you enter Boroland, the rules are very different. The Boro language is very difficult to catch because it's not very similar to the Sanskrit derived languages that we have.
Yeah.
So in Bodoland, everybody has snails all the time. And I have a friend over there, and I asked him, and he said, why you won't see many Boros wearing spectacles? It's because we have snails every day. It keeps your eyes
Oh.
good. Our eyesight is the best because we consume
Oh.
so many snails. And then I started having snails every day.
So you don't want any spectacles. That's the reason, or you really liked it?
I really liked it. I really liked it. It's quite, and they make it very differently. The kind of dishes I tried with snails in Manipur and the
Yeah.
kind I had in Boroland were very different. Very nice.
Okay. And how about Assam? Like, what were your experiences in Assam?
So in Assam, I visited very different places. Like I was in Guwahati for some work for a while, but I stayed in places like Bongaigaon and mostly BTAD. I mean the Boro territory. So the Boroland has a strict rule. After 6, it's curfew. You won't get anything anywhere.
Like
And our work was
irrespective
inside
of,
the forest.
yeah, irrespective of anything, it's like six
Yeah,
o'clock is the
yeah.
perfect time.
It's
Oh,
the
okay.
curfew. So the town, the small town, the marketplace is situated on the other side of the rail line, right? And we was staying near the forest where we had our work, and we did not have any previous connections. We just went to the village and requested someone to let us stay for a week, and she agreed. We didn't even have bed or anything. It was a thatch roof, a small hut with a thatch roof, and we were staying there. So we requested people over there to give us some lunch or dinner or anything, and they denied us. They said you have to come in a large group, then only we'll make food for you. Otherwise, we'll run a loss.
How many
And there
of
were
you were there
four
actually?
of us, only
Oh,
four of
okay.
us. So we
Okay.
never got any food in the morning. We used to have some chai and fruits, and we used to go to the forest, finish our work, visit the town, have our meal once a day before 6, and come back. So we were spending our days like that, and it was during Bihu in April when we visited, and there was quite a good stretch of holidays in between. So no work was being done, and we stayed there. And one day there's this storm that is like the season change time. So there was a
Okay.
storm and the electricity went off. We didn't have any electricity where we were staying. Like you try to charge your phone and the whole circuit is gone for the entire house. So we were
Oh,
told by the landlord to strictly not use any electricity, not to charge heavy things and all. So we
yeah.
just in our room and the electricity went off. We are just lighting a candle and staying there. And the storm happened and we slept. On next morning we woke up and I'm suddenly like, why is there so much light in my room? And I look up and the roof had flown off. The
Oh,
roof
oh
was
my
gone.
God.
And we
Like there was
stayed
no
like that.
roof at all?
There was no roof. The roof was
Oh,
gone. And
oh my God.
oh, that was some experience in Bodoland because
Yeah.
it's so difficult to interact with people. They don't even speak Assamese. And I remember I was mostly talking in sign language. And one of the result was we had to visit a small, so Google Maps won't work in such areas. It won't show you anything. And we had to
Yeah.
visit the regional forest office over there. So somehow I figured out and I told the driver in my sign language, special
Yeah.
sign language, to drop us off at this
Yeah.
particular location.
Yeah.
So we took the car and the driver it was a shared Jeep and the driver had earphones plugged in. And he went on. Even I don't know where I have to get down. I was counting on him to tell me.
Yeah.
And I see like it's been 40 minutes, 50 minutes. What happened? And finally he
Yeah.
stopped the car. We got down and I check in Google Maps. It's showing Dhubri. That's a whole other district. I was in
Oh,
Bodoland. He
yeah.
took me to another district. And
Yeah.
I said, Bhaiya, why didn't you tell us? And he said,
Uh,
oh, sorry, you had to get down. I didn't remember. And
oh
so
my
we
God.
were there in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere, and it was literally like agricultural fields on both sides. There was literally nothing, and we were just standing there. We just got to the other part of the state just like that, and we could not we didn't have any idea how to get back. And finally we hijacked a cement truck.
A
There was the
cement.
truck was the truck was the only thing that was going at that
Acha.
time. So we
Yeah.
just requested, and in cement trucks you can't get on the back, right? Because it was
Yeah.
filled with cement. So
Yeah.
we requested the driver. There were four of us. We said we'll adjust, please, uncle. And then we just got beside the driver. The driver was
Yeah.
like going through the highway, so he dropped us. I have hijacked trucks quite a few times during my
That
travels.
that that is very, very interesting, and I think like going on these trips, like doing such kind of things accidentally, I mean,
Yeah,
they make so many memories. Like,
accidents make a lot of memories, that's for sure.
yeah. So, we are almost like I would say at the end of the session, and I want to ask one last question to you. Like, we got a really nice insight about Northeast and everything. But, the last question I want to ask you is that people say travel makes you wise. It grows you in so many different ways, and a lot of things happen when you start traveling. So, has that happened for you? And if you say yes, what kind of learnings you had got from the travels?
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a long answer because it certainly has. Like, for 3 years, I have traveled before, I've gone on trips, but since I started traveling alone, especially to remote places, sometimes I did not even have the coordinates of where I have to go. So it was scary. Okay, some parts were scary, but then what I developed was the capability to deal with such situations. I can deal with unpredictable situations now. I know, like, I'll have one solution or the other. मतलब जुगाड़ भी तो है तो हो जाएगा. Like that,
True.
So
Yeah.
it has made me adaptable to situations. I can, if anything is thrown at me, I'll be able to handle it. I know. It has given me a lot of courage to travel alone, because that's not something all women can develop, about traveling alone. In their
Right.
states, in the respective environment where they're grown up, not all
Yeah.
women are encouraged to go out and explore alone. So that is
Yeah.
something that I'm very fortunate to have experienced. And now I'm confident, like, if you even tell me to go and settle down anywhere that I don't know,
Yeah.
I know I'll manage somehow. So of
Yeah.
course it has given me a lot of courage, made me an adaptable person, and interacting with locals of so many different tribes, so many different languages and religions all across Northeast. It has given me a broader perspective on life per se. I know that, like, there are so many alternatives to living a life. So
Right.
yeah, it has been a very good experience, and I'm very happy that I made this choice.
That is an amazing, I would say, amazing learning, because
Yeah,
courage is something you have to develop over time, especially if I talk about
true.
women and if I
Yeah,
connect it with traveling. I would say until unless you don't travel, you won't find that courage. Like,
correct.
world belongs to the brave, like it is said.
Correct.
So thank you so much, Arunima. It was
Thank you
so
so
much
much,
fun
Shubha.
to talk to you. So is there a way our viewers can follow you, like your travels and all?
So this account is called Little Trotter. So all my journey, all the places I go to for my PhD and etc. I keep posting everything about it on this particular account, and yeah, I write from time to time, and all the articles, they are uploaded here only. Like, you will get the
Awesome.
links and all. Yeah.
Great, great. So I think when we'll put it on IGTV, we'll just tag your Instagram
Yeah,
account. So
sure.
if people want, they can follow you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much,
Thank you
Arunima,
so
and
much, Shubha.
thank you everyone for joining in. We'll come back with more wonderful travelers every Sunday at 5 p.m. So stay tuned and stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Bye bye.
Bye.